How is it going, everybody? Welcome back to the 10th episode of the True to the Turf podcast. I'm glad to be back as your host, Jimmy. I'm going to be delivering sports news to all of you guys. You know, I just finished finals up. I'm officially on summer break, so it's my goal to start pumping out these episodes as quickly, as soon as possible. And, you know, today we got NBA playoffs and some drama in Atlanta. So if you enjoyed this episode, please leave me a follow on Twitter at True to the Turf to get an update anytime I drop the newest episode. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Obviously, as most of you guys know, we got NBA playoffs, man. We got so much stuff to talk about. First thing I want to talk about is obviously Sunday's game, Lakers versus the Suns. The Suns beat the Lakers 99-90. Devin Booker dropping, he is just absolutely insane. He dropped 34, 8, and 7. DeAndre Ayton dropped 21 to 16. Chris Paul, he only dropped 7 points. 8 and 4, but it didn't even matter because Devin Booker was absolutely insane. On the other side, you got LeBron dropping 18, 10. AD, or after the game, a lot of people online were calling him A Disney. He dropped 13, 7 and 2 on 5 for 16 shooting with a negative 18 plus minus box score. Absolutely horrendous on Anthony Davis's part. Then you got Andre Drummond. He had 12 and 9. He was okay. He had a negative 4 plus minus, but it wasn't necessarily Drummond's fault. He's just doing what he does. He's not good for advanced analytics. It just is what it is. But overall, the Suns get their first playoff win in 11 years over the heavily favored Lakers. And Devin Booker finally gets into the playoffs, and he showed out on the national stage. He was just scoring at will. No one could stop him. He scored more than LeBron and Anthony Davis combined. Then on the other side, you got former number 1 overall pick DeAndre Ayton. He was looking like prime Wilt Chamberlain. He got 16 rebounds while AD and Drummond combined to get 16. Meanwhile, Chris Paul, the leader of the team, he was basically the whole reason the Suns were in this position. He was in MVP talks. He kind of did the same thing with the Oklahoma City Thunder last year, turned them from a bottom of the barrel type of team to playoff contenders. Now the Suns are championship contenders. They showed everyone that they're for real. He made minimal contributions on Sunday, and in the fourth quarter, it looked like he was playing on one shoulder. But for the Lakers, LeBron looked rusty. AD was playing like he was lost. Drummond was just clogging up the lanes like usual. I don't know. The Lakers look a little bit in trouble. I'm not going to cap. With this in mind, though, is it fair to assume the Lakers are going to lose this series? Because, I don't know. That game did not look good for the Lakers. For me, though, in my opinion, my humble opinion, I wouldn't be so sure. You got to put things in perspective. I'm a very open-minded person. I like to look at things, on both sides of the page, I would say. Although the Lakers lost, the Lakers played probably their worst game of the season. Anthony Davis played his worst game of the season. LeBron is still rusty from his injury, but they only lost by 9. So if you look at it like that, you're like, well, if they can play even close to what they've been playing like all year, then it's safe to assume that they can come back and win this series pretty handily. However, one thing I am worried about for the Lakers is the defensive intensity that LA has. Because, Devin Booker, he looked like a young Kobe Bryant yesterday. And I'm not trying to gas him up or nothing. Like, he straight up looked like he was getting to his sweet spots with ease. He was making everything look so easy. And I don't know how they can even contain him. Because I don't think they can stop him. They just got to hope to contain him. When I was watching the game, anytime the Lakers cut into the lead, the Suns came back immediately and got their 10-point lead back. Like, it was ridiculous how deflating it was as a Laker fan to watch that game. Anytime, KCP made a 3, there was a nice play. You look back, then boom, 5 minutes later, the Suns are winning by more than what they were before. It was absolutely ridiculous. However, in my years of watching sports and kind of taking in all of this knowledge, I have learned 2 things. 1, never bet against Tom Brady. He just wins. He's 45 and he's still playing at an MVP level. And 2, never bet against LeBron James making it to the finals. He doesn't always win the finals, but he'll make it to the finals. So, with that being said, the Phoenix Suns are a younger team despite their veteran presence in Chris Paul. LeBron has been playing at this high MVP level for about 18 years. So I am betting the house on the Lakers winning in 6. Point blank, period. You can't convince me. Hey, I might be a little biased. So what? The Lakers are still the better team. They're only in the 7th seed due to injuries and circumstances. So it's unfortunate that the Suns drew the Lakers in the first round because I don't think the Suns are making it out of this series. All right, the next series I want to talk about. Let me fix my mic really quick. Give me 1 second. The next series I want to talk about is the Atlanta Hawks versus the New York Knicks. This series actually was very interesting to me because neither of these teams have made the playoffs in, God knows how long. The last time the Hawks were in the playoffs, they were getting swept by LeBron. Last time the Knicks were in the playoffs, Carmelo was dropping 60 a game. So now we got completely new teams, completely new identities for each team. We got new leaders of each respective franchise. We got Trae Young for the Atlanta Hawks, and we got Julius Randle for the New York Knicks. Going into this, on my last podcast, I said that if the Knicks drew the Hawks, that I'm going to go for the Knicks, and that I think the Knicks are more likely to win the series. However, Trae Young, oh my God, that man is a killer. He hit the game-winning shot with 0.9 seconds left in the ball game at the Garden. One of the most exciting playoff games we've seen so far. There's only been about 6 or 7 games, but that was probably the best game that I've seen so far. And we've seen Trae Young kind of labeled as a guy who puts up empty stats on bad teams, even though it's only his 3rd year. He's been so impressive that people have kind of started labeling him in the same category as they would Devin Booker, Boogie Cousins. But hey, him and Devin Booker are proving everybody wrong. And certainly I was impressed by the man, Trae Young. Boy had ice in my veins. It was a little chilly in the room when I was watching, man, because he was just putting up bucket after bucket, drilling free throw after free throw, dude. We gotta start calling him the Iceman, man. I was surprised at how clutch he was, especially in a place as historical as Madison Square Garden. You've seen so many players crumble or thrive there. It's definitely not for the weak. So Trae Young kind of just showed that, he's about this life. He is for real. He put up 32 points, 10 assists, and even got a surprising 7 rebounds. The man's like 4'3", so getting 7 rebounds is actually kind of crazy. He is also labeled as a guy who kind of just chucks up threes. He was obviously heavily influenced by Steph Curry's game. Steph Curry's obviously the greatest three-point shooter of all time. But despite getting 32 points, he only attempted 3 3-pointers and made 1 of them. So most of his points were by free throws or layups, 2-pointers, whatever he had to do, he did it. Which I thought is very interesting, and I was very encouraged by, because it shows that he has other ways of scoring despite just, chucking up shots. I didn't get to watch that many Atlanta games, but Trae Young looks like a young killer. On the other hand, though, you had the Knicks. The Knicks had a very interesting game. They were in it the entire time. They were leading for a certain amount of time, and their best player on the court was actually not Julius Randle. Julius Randle had a pretty bad game, actually. He scored 15 points, 12 rebounds. He shot 6 for 23. He was just chucking up shots. He looked completely overwhelmed. The best player on the Knicks was actually their bench player, Alec Burks. He had 27, 4, and 3. And the only reason they were pretty much in it is because Alec Burks was phenomenal. You had players tweeting about how great Alec Burks was playing. Julius Randle just looked overwhelmed. It was his first playoff game ever. He had been getting so much attention recently. He probably wanted to absolutely dominate, and he didn't. And that's okay, because, he didn't dominate, and the Knicks only lost by 2. So I think for Randle, if I was Julius Randle, I would kind of go back to my hotel and I would say, okay, I didn't play the best game. I played probably a pretty damn horrible game. However, we still almost won. So if I could just kind of ease up my nerves, and if I could just, kind of calm down a little bit, get those playoff nerves out the way, then we have a good chance of winning this series. However, I think Trae Young is absolutely blossoming into a star before our very eyes, and it's great to see. He silenced the Garden with 1 shot, and I think I love it when athletes get super into their performances and super into the crowds. After he was putting his hand up to his ear, he was saying like it got real silent up in there. I love it. I just love when athletes get super into it. Obviously, a lot of old heads like it when they just kind of do their thing and get on about their lives. But I absolutely love it. I think it makes every sport just so much more interesting to watch. But I don't know. I thought the Knicks were gonna win pretty handily, but it seems like they're still a year or two away from like really contending. RJ Barrett had a decent game. It wasn't anything spectacular. Like I said, Randall was chucking up shots, and he just seemed nervous. I got the Hawks in 7 games, and I'm expecting another big game from the Iceman Trae Young, man. Whew. Next game, we had another rookie. Grizzlies versus the Jazz. The Grizzlies, I was not expecting to even make the playoffs. I believe they were the 9th seed. They beat the Spurs to be able to have an opportunity to play the Warriors to make the 8th seed. Everyone counted out the Grizzlies. Everyone assumed the Warriors were going to beat the Grizzlies to get the 8th seed. And the Grizzlies won. Ja Morant, I think, against the Warriors, dropped 35 points, sent it to OT, and just straight out outplayed Steph. And now against the Jazz, they didn't have Donovan Mitchell this last game, their best player, and the Grizzlies won. I know Donovan Mitchell's supposed to come back today. However, there's always a chance of re-aggravating, injuries, and it happened a couple years ago with LeBron. Happened, it just happens. Once you have an injury, you can re-aggravate it, and you end up missing more time than you usually would if you kind of just rested for the whole time. But since it's playoffs, it's kind of hard to do that, which is a little worrisome for the Jazz. However, Donovan Mitchell's injury isn't super severe, so I think they're going to be okay. I also want to mention how after the Grizzlies beat the Warriors, that there was just everybody on Twitter saying that they weren't going to watch Memphis versus Utah because it's going to be boring. But that young man, Ja Morant, man, that boy, he is blossoming into a superstar before our very eyes, just like Trae Young. Ja Morant had 26, 4 and 4. His co-mate Dylan Brooks had 31 points, 7 rebounds, and 2 assists. They look like, Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen back in the day. But like I said, Utah didn't have Donovan Mitchell. So I'm still going to say the Jazz are going to win in about 5 games, especially Donovan Mitchell comes back today and is staying for the rest of the series. But, yeah, I just don't see with Donovan Mitchell how Memphis can win this series. So, you can always assume. You never know. Ja Morant is that dude. So we'll see. I'm rooting for the Grizzlies, but I just can't see how they beat the Jazz. Next game, we had the Bucks versus the Heat. Yesterday, we saw Milwaukee. This is going to be short and sweet. We saw Milwaukee absolutely demolish the Miami Heat. Giannis ended up with 31 points, 13 boards, 6 assists. Jimmy Butler ended up with 10 points. That good old Jimmy Buckets, man. They look completely outmatched. Giannis looks incredible. Simply, I just don't see how the Miami Heat can take even a game over Milwaukee right now. I got Milwaukee in 4, and it's not really close. I think Giannis is looking more exceptional than he's ever have before. He's looking way better than he was last year when they lost to the Heat. And that's really all I got to say, man. I got Bucks in 4. All right. Now moving on from the previous games, we've got tonight, game 2 for 3 teams. All right. Tonight we got Lakers and Suns part 2. They're playing their second game of the series. And you've got a lot of eyes on the Lakers. The Lakers need King James to be a king again. He needs to step it up. Okay, you need A. Disney to be Anthony Davis. We don't need A. Disney. We need Anthony Davis. And for Drummond, I was never a huge fan of Drummond, but he could be a good contribution to the team. If he gets like 15 boards, I'm cool with that. I'm not huge on Drummond. I think the game is kind of passed him by. He would be fantastic in the 80s or the 90s. But for today's game, he's simply just not the best. He's probably not even in my opinion, this is my opinion again, I'm absolutely stupid. So you have to take that with a grain of salt. Andre Drummond's probably not even a top 5, maybe not even a top 10 center. He's a player where you look at his box score, you say, wow, he absolutely dominated that game. But in reality, he really doesn't. So we'll see what happens. Again, I'm stupid, so take it with a grain of salt. But I need LeBron and AD to be absolutely great today. I don't need them to be good, okay? I don't need them to be an all-star. I need them to be superstars. LeBron is always on social media, so I'm sure he's seen everyone hate on his flop and call him washed and, do all that. So, I'm expecting a cool little 35 points, 12 boards, 8 assists game from him, nothing crazy, just LeBron type of numbers. I need that from him because we need to show that Phoenix is not, who they think they is. AD, though, I cannot figure the man out. He might be the most frustrating superstar to watch. He either looks unstoppable or he looks like a big ass iceberg that can't get out the way. He looks like he's sinking the Titanic. He looks like, a big skyscraper just not moving, So I'm hoping we get to see the 28 points a game version of AD. And if we do, I got the Lakers winning by 15. If we don't get that version of AD, I got the Lakers winning by 10. Okay, so point blank period, Lakers is winning. Then we got Brooklyn versus Boston. Oh man, I'm so sorry, Boston fans. I know I'm supposed to be a rival fan of Boston, being from LA, being a Lakers fan, but I truly just feel bad for y'all. Y'all, we're supposed to be a top 4 seed at the beginning of the year. You guys just didn't play good. Your best player was arguably Jaylen Brown, and he's injured for the rest of the year. And then you play the play-in games. You might have been better off just losing the first one and winning the second one, because now you got to go up against Brooklyn instead of the Sixers. And Brooklyn they simply have just too much firepower for Boston to handle. They got, obviously they got Kyrie Irving, James Harden, Kevin Durant. You got Joe Harris. You got all these dudes that are just straight buckets. And it's really just not fair for Boston, man. They can't handle it. They can't hang. Jason Tatum has to, chuck up like 50 shots a game just to even try to keep up. And it's not going to happen. I expect another easy win for Brooklyn with one of the big three to put up 40 points. Brooklyn is simply too talented to not make the finals. If they don't make the finals, this season was a failure. And, it's a little harsh, it's a little unfair to them, but it's what's to be expected when you have, 3 of the top 10 players in the NBA on one roster. You have James Harden, who was an MVP 2 years ago, KD an MVP in 2014. Kyrie was never been an MVP, but he is an MVP caliber type of player. We've seen Kyrie at the biggest stage, hit the biggest shots. Same with KD. We haven't seen the same with James Harden, but balancing out with those other 2 superstars, it takes a lot of pressure off of James Harden. So I think that is helping him a lot in these playoffs, and I just don't see how Boston can handle it. I'm sorry, Boston. You need to get your behinds out the door, because we want to see round 2 already. It's going to be too boring watching Brooklyn just beat up on you. Brooklyn, their big three is challenging, the greatest big threes ever, possibly the greatest big three ever in terms of just talent, not fit. So yeah, I got Brooklyn winning by 30. Sorry, not sorry. Okay, so the last game for today for the NBA playoffs, we've got the Dallas Mavericks versus the Los Angeles Clippers. Oh boy. It's make or break time for the little bros of LA, huh? Clippers collapsed in the fourth quarter of game 1. Even though Luka scored 1 point in the fourth quarter and shot 2 air balls, the Clippers still found a way to lose. And it brought the Clippers to 4 straight playoff losses, ranging back to last year in the bubble against the Denver Nuggets. And if the Clippers lose this game, I just do not see how the Clippers can come back from this. I know it's kind of rushed to say that this is a must-win game for the Clippers, but I'm going to say it's a must-win game for the Clippers. If you don't win this game, then you lose home court advantage. You go back for the next 2 games to Dallas, and it's over. And I'm thoroughly surprised by this. I dumbly picked the Clippers last year to win the championship. They didn't even make it to the conference finals. And here's what I need, okay? If you are listening, Kawhi, because you would clearly be listening to this podcast the day of your game. I need Kawhi to tell Ty Lue that he is going to guard Luka all game, okay? If he gets tired, switch PG on him for a bit. But I want majority Kawhi on Luka, okay? Kawhi in his prime was one of the best two-way players that we have ever seen. He won Defensive Player of the Year. He was a lockdown specialist coming into the league. He eventually developed his offensive game a little bit more. But we need Kawhi to be a little more two-way player, okay? He's kind of just, chilling on the defensive side, and Luka is just absolutely dominating them. Kawhi was once my favorite player, actually. A little backstory. Back when he was on the Spurs, he was once my favorite player because he had this two-way ability, and he was leading his team while at the same time locking up the best player. He kind of the same, story of Kobe, MJ, prime LeBron. I love that. I love someone being able to score at will while locking up your best player, because it just makes them so much more valuable to a team. But over the years, he's kind of shown a lack of defensive intensity these past few years due to age and injuries. And a lot of people aren't talking about it. A lot of people just kind of look at the Clippers and they look at these names and they got the name value. They got Serge Ibaka, he has the nickname Serge Ibaka. You got Pat Bev, people say he's really good on defense, but in reality, he kind of just runs around like a little gnat, just yapping at you, just never shuts up. Just kind of gets into the opposing player's head. And he's good at it. I'm not hating on him. He's very good at it, but he's not a good defensive player necessarily. He's a lot of energy. You look at Paul George and Kawhi. Paul George defensively has never really been the same since that horrible injury he had on the Olympics. I mean, I just had the shivers just thinking about it right now. That was absolutely disgusting. Kawhi, obviously, ever since his big injury that was very well reported on his time with the Spurs, he's kind of never been the same defensively. But I've noticed a lack of effort on defense from Kawhi. It's not that he's not as good. He's just not necessarily trying. And I'm not asking for Kawhi to guard Luka all game for the entire series. I'm asking him to guard him all game today, because if they don't do that and Luka scores another 40, 12, and 11, the Clippers aren't winning. It's as simple as that. For the Clippers, it's put up or shut up time. If these guys want the respect as a championship caliber team, I need them to play like that, because straight up, they're not playing like it. And I can't even lie right now. It looks like Luka is the best player on the court, and the Mavs are the best team. Okay, I'm just saying, it's what it's looking like. I know a lot of people hate on the Larry Bird, Luka, comparison, but it's kind of looking like Luka's turning into a little Larry Bird version right now. So the Clippers need to be scared, And you look back last year when the Mavs played the Clippers almost lost to the Mavericks. And that was without Porzingis, if I will. Okay, so I think the Clippers take this series just from experience and talent alone, but they have got to win this game. They've got to win it. Just straight up, there's no way they can't win this game. All right, now moving on to the world of football. There was breaking news down in the ATL. Oh, man, down south. Okay. So let me give you a little backstory. Former football player and Hall of Famer Shannon Sharpe calls superstar wide receiver Julio Jones, who, if you guys remember in the last episode I mentioned, was on the trade block, and how I said Atlanta should not trade him because he's not only a box office receiver, he's one of the best receivers that we have seen in the game, and he still has a lot of gas left in that tank of his, okay? So, Shannon Sharpe has a show on Fox called Undisputed with Skip Bayless. A lot of sports fans know who Skip Bayless is. He is a professional hater of LeBron, professional hater of a lot of people, professional lover of Tim Tebow. Live on air yesterday, Shannon Sharpe calls Julio Jones. He calls him, says, "What's up, Julio?" Julio says, "What's going on, Shannon?" That's my Julio and Shannon impersonation, if you guys couldn't tell. Sounds a lot like my regular voice. Whatever. Julio tells Shannon Sharpe and millions that were listening that he was quote-unquote out of there, meaning out of Atlanta, And Shannon Sharp continues to ask him, where do you want to play? Do you want to play for Dallas? Do you want, like, what's the deal here, Julio? We got things to do. We got things to talk about. And Julio tells Shannon Sharp that he wants to win. And he also mentioned that he would never go to Dallas. Sorry, Cowboy fans. And this is huge for two reasons. One, we don't know if Julio Jones knew he was on live TV while answering calls. When Shannon Sharp called Julio Jones, he never said, "Hey, Julio, I'm live on TV." He said, "What's up, Julio?" He never mentioned to him that he was live on TV, that they were airing, meaning, and I don't know if this is staged or not. I really don't. I don't know if this is staged, meaning that would be a dishonest and cruel thing in the world of journalism. Shannon Sharp is obviously not a journalist, so he's not going to, but he knows a lot of journalists, and I am sure he knows, not to do that. I don't know if he didn't think Julio was going to say that, or if he was just trying to get like a funny bit. I don't know. But that would also be illegal in the state of California for recording a conversation without telling the other party. So that's one thing right there. So we don't know if Julio Jones knew that. There's been no updates from Shannon Sharp or Julio Jones. We've had agents from NFL teams talking about, this is why I would never let any of my players go on to this show. We have a lot of journalists calling out Shannon Sharp for, kind of tricking Julio Jones into an answer. Because we don't really see players kind of just openly admit that they want out of a place, and openly admit that they don't want to go to a certain place, and openly admit all the stuff that Julio Jones admitted. So a lot of people are confused because towards the end of the call, Shannon Sharp did say, "Hey, I'm live on air, by the way." But at the beginning of the call, we don't know if Julio Jones knew, which would kind of suck for Julio Jones and the Atlanta Falcons for Julio Jones' trade value, because now they can't really get as much. I don't know if Julio Jones is going to be able to go to a place he actually wants to go to. Second reason why this is big news. Julio Jones literally admitted to wanting to go somewhere else. I mean, this is huge news. We kind of assumed. It was kind of already known, but it wasn't, it wasn't hammered down by anybody, right? So you got to wonder where Julio Jones is going to go based off the clues you gave. We know some things from the call. It was a minute-long call. We know he does not want to be in Atlanta or Dallas. LOL. He wants to go to a team that is a Super Bowl contender. So that leaves for me these teams: the Kansas City Chiefs, the Baltimore Ravens, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Buffalo Bills, Seattle Seahawks, and the Packers. So, what else does Julio Jones want? He probably wants a pass-heavy offense so that he can get a lot of touches. So that takes out the Ravens, because obviously the Ravens are the most run-heavy team in football. You got Lamar Jackson, who runs every other pass attempt. And no hit on Lamar Jackson. It's just not the best place if you're a receiver that wants numbers. Now you got to think about who wants the space for Julio's contract, okay? They're probably going to take out the Chiefs and the Buccaneers. The Buccaneers spend a lot of money to bring back all of their starters. You take out the Chiefs because they're paying millions and millions of dollars for Travis Kelce, Tyreek Hill, Chris Jones. Obviously, they got the $500 million contract with Mahomes. So they probably don't want to take on that huge Julio Jones contract. So that leaves you Buffalo, Seattle, and Green Bay. So you had to, when I was looking at this, first thing that came to mind. First thing, what if Julio goes to the Packers? Okay, now hear me out. I know Aaron Rodgers said he wants to leave the Packers, and I know Aaron Rodgers said the Packers suck, and they're a bunch of doo-doo heads, and Aaron Rodgers told the Packers to basically go, stick it up there, but look, you've got two disgruntled stars, superstars actually, saying they want to leave their team. Aaron feels like the Packers organization doesn't want him for the long run. They're scared of commitment, kind of like, your ex talking to you about, why aren't you proposing yet? Aaron Rodgers is the ex. Green Bay is the dumb boyfriend. Okay? Aaron Rodgers feels as if he isn't getting enough respect for the journey that he's taken them on. Yes, he has a great team around him, but he doesn't feel like they're giving him the appreciation that he deserves. Saying in an interview that it's more of the Packers' ideals that make him want to leave and not the quarterback that they drafted, Jordan Love, which is what everyone was assuming happened because 2 years ago, I believe, the Packers had a first-round pick, and Aaron Rodgers said, he just straight up said, I want a receiver. I want it. Give me what I want, Green Bay. I am giving you, 10 plus years of my hardest work. Give me another receiver, please. They didn't do that. What did they do with their first round pick? They got a quarterback, Jordan Love. They actually traded up to get a quarterback, Jordan Love. So when that happens, everyone's like, whoa, what is going on here? What's happening? Aaron Rodgers literally just said he wants a receiver, and you draft a quarterback. You didn't even draft a corner, a position player. You drafted a quarterback. Traded up to get him. So everyone's thinking, well, first of all, who the hell made that decision? And when the hell are they getting fired? They're not fired. And Jordan Love is still on the team. And usually in terms of history for football, when you trade up to get a quarterback, when you already have an aging quarterback, the Packers are basically saying, okay, Aaron, your time is up. We really appreciate everything you've done, but, kick rocks, get out of here. We don't want you. Take it somewhere else. And then Aaron Rodgers proceeded to put up a unanimous MVP type of season, throwing over 40 touchdowns, taking the team to another championship game, obviously losing against the Buccaneers. We already talked about that a few episodes ago. But after that, it's kind of like, okay, well, how are we going to get rid of Aaron Rodgers if he just put up that season? So now Green Bay and Aaron Rodgers are kind of stuck in this little dance. Aaron wants a new contract, or he wanted a new contract a long time ago. Green Bay said, yeah, that's good. What you want? You thinking 1 year contract, 2 year contract? Aaron saying, nah, bruh, I want a 3, 4, 5 year contract. I want that Brady money. I want, that Brady security. You see Tom Brady getting an extension with the Buccaneers, and, Aaron Rodgers is damn near a decade younger than Tom Brady, and he just played arguably the best season of his career. So he's thinking, well, if Tom Brady can play until his 50s, I can play into my mid 40s. So Green Bay, just give me the contract and I'm staying with you, and I'll keep you guys relevant, and I'll keep you guys a championship contender. Green Bay said, yeah, I don't know. We got this kid Jordan Love. He's a lot cheaper. He's a lot more handsome. So we'll just, we'll give you. What if you get a 1 to 2 year contract? We'll give you a lot of money for it, and then after that, you can retire and go live on a ranch or whatever you want to do. Ron. And then basically Aaron Rodgers just said, F you guys, gave him the middle finger, and has kind of been going on this whole publicity run to say, get me the hell out of here. He doesn't like Green Bay. He don't like it no more. He's very mad. You made Aaron very mad, Green Bay. Very dumb of you. Very dumb. Now, him getting Julio, or Green Bay getting Julio, I would say, is very unlikely because they're probably more focused on keeping Aaron Rodgers than getting Julio Jones. But if they get Julio Jones, which I think literally every team besides the Dallas Cowboys should be trying to get, I would trade picks, maybe a good player to try to get him. If the Packers get him, even though Aaron feels like the organization doesn't want him, this might be the next best chance that Aaron Rodgers has of winning a championship. I mean, how are you going, as a defense, how are you going to plan and scheme against Devontae Adams on one side and Julio Jones on the other? With Aaron Rodgers, Jesus, I almost had a stroke just saying that. What the hell? With Aaron Rodgers at quarterback, with Aaron Jones in the backfield. How do you stop that? I'm trying to think. You can't stop it. With Julio Jones and Calvin Ridley a year ago, not the season that just went by, 2 years ago, I would say. When they were healthy, they were an unstoppable wide receiver duo. And Devontae Adams is way better than Calvin Ridley. So you put them together, and I mean, that's just magic in a bottle right there, So I know Aaron is saying that, He don't like Green Bay no more. He don't like that Wisconsin cheese. He don't like, all them nice white folks that be going to the stadium. He wants to leave. He wants to go to Vegas. He wants to go to, Chicago. He wants to go somewhere, right? But I honestly think if Green Bay gets Julio, that Aaron Rodgers might stay for another year and they might make a run for a championship. They just might, okay? It just might happen. This might be the little optimistic view in my heart talking, but I feel like that's a possibility, okay? But in all reality, this is all just scenarios that I'm going through in my head, okay? We don't know for certain anything that's going to happen. We don't know anything that's going to happen right now. So, with that in mind, I kindly ask all of you to tune into the next episode to talk all NBA and football and baseball. We'll talk about the kickball game you guys had behind your grandma's yard. We'll talk about whatever we need to talk about. Anything newsworthy, I got you. Okay, I'm your man. I'm like your barber. Don't be cheating on me going to another podcast. Okay, I'm just playing. But thank you guys so much for tuning in, and I hope you guys all have a beautiful day. I will catch you guys later.